Kia ora, good evening. Welcome to one more session of Code Night New Zealand. And tonight we have an interesting topic, the secrets of configuration files. Uh, that's an interesting topic. We're going to deep dive into configuration files in .NET. That's going to be, we're going to have lots of demos. And also we're going to explore how engineering teams can work with secrets. So, well, if you are a software developer, you're working on a team, stick around. You're going to learn lots by, well, the different demos and also good practices in how to manage those secrets with within like configuration files. How do you do currently? Do you save secrets in against configuration files? There are like some great practices that I'm gonna walk you guys through it. And as you can see, like tonight, it's going to be me. I'm gonna be your speaker. And before we get to jump to the presentation, let me just introduce myself. If it's the first time that you're coming, so just talk a little bit about myself. My name is Marcel Medina. I'm a software developer. I'm a lead developer, and my specialization is on the Azure clouds. And as you can see, I'm a Microsoft MVP under the Azure stack. And as you can see here, like currently, well, I'm working as a practice lead at Datacom. I have my blog and the QR codes in there. Well, uh, that's me. But what's important, really, it's the user group where we get just to talk like every 3 to 4 weeks. And as you can see, like we are a community group of developers and we love codes and we follow best practices on software development languages and technologies. In general, we tend to focus mainly on Microsoft stack, but we're open to different technologies. If you have like any sort of content, interesting content to share, feel free to ping me and then we can just arrange a session. But as you can see, the intent of the user group is to enable developers practical knowledge so you can excel and launch your career. You're always going to find great content, like so, regardless of your career journey, if you are like a junior or a lead dev, you're always going to find like great content with our sessions. I'd like to mention that we're part of AzureTire.com. So we're a community group where we get to talk about the latest and greatest on the cloud native space. And we are sponsored by the .NETFoundation.org, which is a open source entity that looks after the different .NET projects. With no further ado, let me just bring another screen here where we can just get going. This one. All right. So our agenda, we're going to cover lots of things in here. But first, what's configuration? Well, what determines our configuration? What can we use in a configuration? Just like to set the behavior of our application. We're gonna see how we can handle configuration, like compile time, run time, configuration providers, how we can load different sources, JSON, environment variables, secrets. Um, we're gonna explore those. The options pattern. So if you're on ASP.NET, well, it's important for you to know like what this is. Secrets from the field. So as I said, like if you are working on engineering team or any team, stick around. There will be like great sharing in the end of our session. As I said, this is going to be full of demos. I'd like to mention that before we get to do codes and explore those details, I would like to share that this session is based on the .NET configuration in depth presented by Chris Ayers at the .NET Conf that happened like this past month, back in November, when .NET 8 was launched. As you can see, feel free to jump to that on .NETconf.net. I'd like just to thanks Chris for sharing this great content. I'm gonna take like his examples stretch a little bit more. So what's configuration, right? So configuration, it's basically like this arrangement of different settings, feature flags, secrets that will dictate the behavior of your application, right? Those settings could be any settings around, okay, like some examples, retry times, queue length, things that will dictate the behavior of your solution. In this case, like they are not sensitive information at all. It's just like information about the platform that you are leveraging. Could be like around feature flags where, okay, you're gonna set some features per use for individual users, or maybe you're gonna put like some feature flags based on percentage where like you have blue-green deployments, and when you want to control the sort of percentage of like the of your deployments and how to display things to your users, or maybe like secrets when you have like sensitive information and you want to deal like with connection strings or any sort of like they're like app registration where we have client IDs and client secrets. But like that's the sort of arrangement around your that dictates the behavior of your application, right? Here, I'm not saying talk about files at all. I'm just saying about configuration and more like generic way. But when it comes like to handle configuration, we can handle at compile time or at runtime. Let me bring like this laser point in here. So at compile time, what we have basically this example, we have like a source control and then we have say different branches. Uh, just random branches in here. But what you can see is that during the build time, we're ingesting or some sort of configuration that will dictate how the binaries are created, right? So that's the example here. So we can handle configuration through compilation. We can handle configuration through the runtime. This is what in general we're gonna have, right? Where we have the binaries. The binaries are the same to be deployed for the different environments, as you can see here, dev, tests, and prod. But they come to as basically provide parameters for our solutions, for our binaries. And then from there, the application knows how to behave, right? How to work by leveraging those configuration settings. A little bit further, configuration providers. So I mentioned about, well, if you want, for example, have different sources, they could be JSON files, could be environment variables. You can have like command lines, right? So where you provide like just parameters on CLI, for example, or any other providers to deal with secrets, right? So, or even others like memory. There are many of them, and you can even implement your custom configuration provider. You can see here like we have interfaces. That's okay. First, we have iConfiguration source that can be any source, and from there, like you can determine, okay, this is my configuration provider that knows how to deal with the different sources. From here, you can see this big arrow. I'm going to explain the next slide. But for everything here to work, you need to have a builder. So this is the configuration builder that's going to spit out your entire configuration of the application, right? So next slide, it explains the arrow. It just dictates that the order matters, right? So on .NET, when you are combining those different configuration providers, right? So the last one that comes and it's loaded wins, right? The last wins. Think about that. If you look in here, like in the environment variable, like for dev, we don't have any other setting conflicting here. So this one wins, comes in here. Then we have DB key, where the value is localhost. So far, so good. But then we have this other configuration provider that's added on as the environment variable. You're gonna see that it comes with constring. This one is the last. This one wins. comes in here, down here. Last case in here, like command line, we have like a log level of info value. There's nothing else, this one wins. So in the end, we have like our final configuration. And that means that we can have multiple configuration providers, and we can pick the configuration from many of them. We can stack many configuration providers. In the end, the behavior is to have like a builder, and our configuration is available. Let me go to the next one. So I said about those configuration providers. They could be file-based. Well, what sort of files? JSON, XML, INI, keeper file. It will depend on the platform that you are targeting, right? So let's say that you're doing any sort of an integration where an XML is going to be spit out, right? Or maybe you have a file, and then we need to have like this keeper file. It will vary on applications, right? In general, you're going to have JSON. Modern uh, applications leverage JSON, right? The rest in here, you're going to see more like on legacy systems. And others, what others? Well, environment variables, command line, in memory, user secrets. Then on the Azure space, right, we can leverage Azure keyvault, Azure app configuration. Well, there are lots. There are lots, to be honest. And when this is the reference in here, but you can use whatever you want. There are some out-of-the-box configuration providers, right? Depending on the stack that you are targeting. So let's say you're leveraging a console app. What sort of configuration providers are available? Well, none. It's simple like on a console, you need to specify the configuration providers yourself. So you need to build up where you're going to launch your configuration from, right? So you need to specify that. If you go with ESP.NET, well, that comes with lots already baked in, right? Like JSON, how to deal with JSON files. So it comes down like this app settings.json, app settings.environment JSON. So those are native or part of ESP.NET, right? Environment variables, command line variables, user secrets. You don't need to do anything. Like simply it's there. If, for example, if you need Azure Key Vault, then you need to hook onto the ESP.NET application. But other than that, you have everything that you need, right? Um, Something to consider, right? Because if you're working on ESP.NET application and then you see people injecting things that are already part of it, well, at the end of the day, you're just like just introducing like performance issues and just additional RAM to be used, right? Don't want that. You want to keep like your applications lean as much as possible. On the Azure Functions space, right? So I think the ASP.NET is very robust when comparing to functions, but functions have a specific purpose, right? So they're going to rely heavily on environment variables and command line variables. It makes sense. I'm going to show like towards the end how we can make use of those environment variables for dealing with secrets, right? That's like the nature of functions and how everything can be leveraged through environment variables, right? Uh, with this in here, I just want to share this link and let's get going. Enough of talk and let's get going to code. I'm just coming here, just a minute, and I need to share this screen in here. All right. I think like the zoom is okay. Let me just bring a little bit more in here. I think this should be okay. Just let me know like on comments in case things need to be go like a little bit bigger, but I think that should be fine, right? So as you can see here on the left side, we have many examples, right? I'm gonna go like each and every single one. Uh, just to start, right? So we're gonna go like to this deep dive to understand like all of the configuration, possible configurations on .NET. If you're coming for the first time as a junior dev, man, you're going to learn like lots. If you're a lead dev, you're gonna probably have faced most of those configuration settings, but there will be some specifics in here that it's really cool to see or checking again if you haven't checked before. First of all, when you start like a .NET new application, what you get just a console. Everything here comes with a console. By the way, this comes with a console application, and we stretch to ESP.NET, right? In the end, I'm going to show another source where we have functions. But as you can see here, we have like just like the standard console, right line, hello world. That's it. That's the basic console templates. I'm not touching that. We're going to start touching 01. And well, we can look at here. We have a config file, right? So there's a config file that we're going to have in all of the projects. In the program CS, what it has in here, it has, well, a greeting, um, an environment. How are things are combined in here? Well, you can see that we have this configuration that has a builder. And we have the configuration provider here to load the JSON file. Uh, then it builds, but if you look in here, like we have those two packages, right? So extensions configuration and extensions configuration.json. Those are important ones. Without those, you cannot load configuration by leveraging the JSON files, right? When we load that one, let me put like in here, right? So you simply just put like .NET run. So this should launch the app. But what we're gonna see is that we have the greeting and the name, okay? And in the end, we show like the configuration here. Uh, well, that should run very quickly. But just as simple as that, we have like this hello world, greeting, a name, and the configuration, right? That's the simplest example of all. Uh, but you can see, well, we're just stacking a single one, like a JSON file. We can do much more. Let's go like to environment variables. What's different here? Well, just hide there, but we have like same like greeting and environment. But in here you can see that, well, we have not only the JSON file, we have the environment variable. How is that hooked? You can see that we're bring another NuGet package, environment variable, right? So if I go in there and run this in here, it's going to only show that, right? Environments like hello, hi there, dev. Come on. And what you can do, okay, we can set an environment variable, right? Set environment equals QA, right? So I think this one should be okay. Let me run again. So we should show in here like configuration QA because I'm injecting this environment variable in here, right? So it's showing here. So like through environment variables, now I'm injecting more parameters to our application, right? So far, so good. Let's jump to another example. Things are going to be building up as you see. Command line. Okay, command line. Same as before, creating an environment. And then what happens is that, well, you can see here like we're stacking things, JSON file, environment variable, command line. Well, how does it work? So for the command line, we also have another package, right? So you're gonna see that you can simply bring like more packages, NuGet packages, and get things to work as you're hooking, basically uh, onto the console and put like CO3, right? So .NET run. if I just run this by default, we're gonna have like we're gonna see the environment dev. I want like to change that. I'm gonna say like, oh, that's exactly what I need in here. That's the example. So I'm gonna provide. You can see in here like I'm giving this dash dash environment. So this is my command. Okay, it's not like an environment variable. I'm dictating through a command line parameter. So we should be able to see in here configuration prod, right? So that's what we're seeing here. Okay, so we're stacking things in here, right? Uh, well, let's see user secrets, right? So what has changed? Well, basically nothing. We still have the same in here. What about the program? Well, in here you can see that we're stacking things. Again, JSON, environment variables, user secrets, command line. And if you look like the package, well, we have another package. As simple as that. Seems easy, right? Like after you get something to work. And for the user secrets, I have a better example. But one of the command lines in general I get to share is this. Let me just bring this screen here because I have a link where, because first, for you to be able to use a user secrets, you need to initialize the, uh, well, your secrets, right? How are you gonna do it? We're gonna use this command, user secrets init. And by doing that, you're gonna see that the project automatically adds this user secrets ID. Uh, this is something internal, well, on your machine that .NET controls. It's called like the secret manager. It's just like a temporary place for you to host secrets, right? And that's temporary. It's only during like development phase. So it's not something that's going to be persisted for a long time in your machine. But like something that you can do it is just like, for example, user secrets. There are commands. After you initialize, you can come like in, okay, I want to list my secrets that I have in here. Uh, what's user secrets? It's not 3, it should be 4. Sorry. So CD04. Let me do the same in here. All right. So you're gonna see that, okay, I can add secrets to there, and you're gonna see that it creates something here like where I have like environment local. Well, I can simply define this by putting like for like that, right? I was just listing things, but I was putting like this, like user. Let me bring this. .NET sets an environment. It's basically a key value pair. This is the key and this is the value, right? And as soon as that's done, we're gonna have, okay, that was successfully saved, right? I just want to show that because in a more advanced example, I'm gonna show how to manage that on applications, okay? One of the things to mention here is that, as you can see, user secrets is here, right? So, well, stick around. We're gonna deep dive to that. Let's go to another example. Configuration sections. Well, here we have a more, well, a better arranged configurations file, right? With nested, uh, basically a hierarchy in here. So greeting, within there we have message, a color, environment. How does that work? As you can see, right? Well, we have like JSON file, environment variable, uh, the same as before. But one of the things to see here is that we are combining or nesting those variables using a column. All right, so grading color, which comes from grading color. So we can have like this complexity or a better arranged, let's say, um, file structure, right? So that helps. .NET run. Let me just put like this one. So it helps like us defining, well, a better JSON structure, right? So we have like hello world. You can change in here to a different color because I have environment variables. No, actually a command line. So I can just put, okay, a grading color now it's going to be blue, and it's going to be displayed in here like in blue color. One of the things in here is that there's a specific package that's being used. It's called like this ANSI console package, which is this one, Spectre. That allows you to include like colors in console apps, right? But as you can see here, like we're starting to nest some sort of configurations. Well, this one, sections command line mappings, right? So we start like those command lines. But when it comes to here, we can do some sort of dictionary mapping. So we can simplify things. I don't need to be targeting like a grading column message. I could just say, okay, that's my dash dash grading. That's my command line. So I can have this sort of dictionary, create like this sort of mappings to simplify things, right? Because before I put like grading color blue, now I can say, okay, nope, that's just color. Oops, 06, and put like 06, cd 06 dash console .net. This one is going to be color. Or let me put like the whole thing in here. Color blue. So I can start in here like, okay, I can do a mapping, a dictionary. Oh, great. So that kind of simplify things, right? So yeah, as you can see here, my environment variable is still sticking QA, right? So, well, that's not gonna go away, but that's in there. So I'm just like, okay, getting more like on top of each other. Then we have like this hosted console template. Wow, what is that? You can see here, right? Creates a create application builder. Basically, we are creating a web app in here, right? So we're kind of within our console, we can now set up like a web app. And with that, as remember, like configuration providers, we have app settings by default, right? We don't need to hook anything extra in here. Like only that does the work. And well, there are things in here. Let me see if I can uncomment things because we can bring like some cool stuff in here. Like so hosting, let's see, configuration. I'm gonna bring another one. Well, dependency injection. That we need like a design configuration. I can put like this in here. What else? Let's bring like one value, an integer, which that's cool. So we're not dealing only with strings, right? You can specify types. So let me grab this, for example. Um, well, so basically what's in there, right? So, well, we're creating a web app. We're grabbing the configuration. And from configuration, I'm trying to read this key one of an integer and printing that, right? So, and also gonna print this hello world in here. If I was to run it, let me put a 06 uh, .NET, oops, .NET run, oh, dot, okay. So yeah, like we're gonna have like those prints and the application is going to start, right? From here, like we're kind of, okay, now, well, enhancing or changing the behavior of our console app to become a web application. Let's just see like this one launching. Let's see if like any questions. Nothing so far. In here, I think I have like this one. Did I print it? Hello, because I should expect this to come. Key value configuration. Well, we're troubleshooting here now. So I had my configuration, then I got the value here. So that was simply skipped. Interesting. Well, let me stop that. Why should expect an error, or at least do I have like key one? Let me see here. Key one. Key one should be one, right? So that's in there. Key value there, key one. So let's run again one more time. Uh, but yeah, like we can, right now we're just dealing with primitive types, right? Integer is a primitive. We're gonna have like objects that we can hook, right, and launch those. So let's just see if that one gets printed in here. I'm expecting that this one's gonna be printed, this one as well. Yeah, it did. Somehow it feels that maybe this one wasn't ready, but yeah, could be a bug, right? We need to put something like to really print those values. But you can see here, right? The key one was red, right? So which is cool. So we know that this is working. Well, so we're just starting with a web application. Let's go into the another example. Flat setup. Okay, what does it mean? Well, it means that we have like, okay, a single, uh, let's say an element, right, where it's just like a flat structure. And then we can simply print those. Nothing magical about that. I'm gonna kind of jump to the other one because, okay, we're just printing the name as it is. And now you're used to like, okay, you've seen all of those configuration providers. Nothing special about that. Let's see the other one, right? Because this is where we have this hierarchy. Wow, this like then starts to get like really like how we would be dealing with in the real world, right? So we have like a structure here of PDF and then a nested settings under that, like file extension, output directory, template file. Okay, that's fine. And then when we look at what we have in here, so now you can see that you are nesting things, right? So the first one element was just like by itself, but here we have the nested uh, configuration, right? If I was to print that, well, same as before, like we don't have like anything magical happening here, but you're gonna see that, okay, so we can combine nested uh, configurations. Cool. What if I decide to grab sections of those? If I don't want to print, well, the specific elements, I'm gonna see that. So you can see, right? So cool, I'm printing all of those individual nested elements that are there, fine. No surprising here, but now we can start looking, okay, sections. Any difference here? No, exactly as before, right? But when we, well, we still have the same here, configuration providers, right? Nothing changed, but we're grabbing sections. So I can say I want to print or grab this PDF section. I want to grab the doc section, HTML section. Nice. Well, so far so good. I'm just grabbing strings and printing them. Basically, that's what's happening, right? So I'm not converting anything. Everything here is a string because it's just it is what it is. I'm printing as a string. So if I go in here, right, it's okay, sections.net run, so we can see that those are going to be launched. So let's just see that. Come on, computer, you just let's just work. And wow, yeah, it took some time. Not sure why, but yeah, well, so far so good. But like now we're kind of grabbing sections of our configuration file. Eh, well, we can do binding. Well, what's binding? Well, here like configuration, but what about the binding? Well, as you can see here, well, nothing has changed in here. our stack configuration provider remain the same. What has changed is this. We're saying, okay, I want a file options in here. What's this file options? Well, this is my object. This is my class, right? So I have a class that defines those properties, right? Getters and setters. So this is a property. I have two ways of doing binding in here. One is to grab the section and then do the binding directly to the object, right? So I have like this way, but I have another way where I grab the section and I say, well, I get a file options object. Uh, well, this one will be kind of two lines. This is a single line. I get the same. I get like another instance of file options, right? So, well, things are becoming interesting now because now I can bind objects, right? So, and that's cool because real worlds, we're going to be dealing with that. I want to be able to bind like the configuration settings to objects, right? To classes first, and then having objects created in my code. So I can just like rather than going section by section or grabbing strings, right? Like within my configuration, I can just say, okay, object dot something, right? In here, for example. So I want like my object dot properties dot output there dot template file. And that's how we do it, right? Like in, well, commercial applications. Now we're talk about something that's real world in here, right? So with that, I'm gonna pause here. Let's go back to the presentation, and we're gonna continue with those slides, right? This is organized in a way that we can explore things as we go, right? So, and you don't have uh, any sort of uh, well, I would say it helps us understanding the capabilities of what we have on the platform. Let me go to the next slide. We have the options pattern. Okay, what's the options pattern, right? So it brings in here some sort of, well, concepts, and then that's how options is a way of how we can load um, our configuration settings, right? Our configuration in memory, right? And have an initialized version, an instanced version of our configuration. Uh, that's widely used on ESP.NET because we could just, okay, from the particular interfaces, I'm going to show like the next slide, but we can just, okay, automatically launch instances of those configuration settings in memory, right? Uh, it has like some sort of concepts in here, like around, okay, on solid, right? Like interface segregation principle, where you should like make your applications to implement like fat interfaces, right? Like, so it says in here like that the classes that depends on configuration settings, they depend only on configuration settings that they use. So you have like a more narrow uh, sort of abstraction, right? By leveraging those interfaces that comes with the options pattern. Separation of concern. So you can have multiple objects of leveraging the options pattern and they don't interfere to each other, right? So they're completely like decoupled. So that's what like the separation of concerns. We have the link in here as part of the video if you want to check later. So I just want to bring that for us to be able to leverage options on ESP.NET. We need to have that, right? We need to have a class that's not abstract. Well, like that, we don't have any constructor, which means we have a parameterless constructor, right? So that's what we need. And we need getters and setters. They need to be public. Can I use a record for that? No, you cannot. Records in general, you're going to use to initialize your objects, but you don't have setters, right? They are private. So you need to be a class for that to work. When it comes to the interface that I mentioned, right? As you can see here, we have the eye options snapshot, eye options monitor. So when can you use them? Well, if you're thinking about having a singleton instance, what's a singleton? It's just a single instance of that particular abstraction, right? So which means that it lives the entire uh, life cycle of the application, right? You launch the application, that's a single instance that never changes, right? So that's what you get with IOptions. And well, IOptions snapshot, you don't have a singleton. That's based on request, a scoped sort of life cycle. Well, when are you going to use that? So if you are going to be requesting every single time for every new request, you're going to have like some sort of a scoped instance that's going to be, you're going to have multiple instances being created for individual requests, right? So that's when you want to leverage that. But not only that, right? You need to look like the other parts of the tables. If you're using an option, IOptions, because it's singleton, you don't have reload support. So if you change the configuration file, you're not going to get the latest from that. Simply nothing's going to change, right? While with the option snapshots in the options monitor, you can go and change your JSON file or any configuration file, and that's going to be automatically refreshed as soon as you try bringing those values up, right? There's also like support for named instances. What that means is that, for example, on the previous slide where I have my file options, well, in general, well, if I want to have three different instances of file options, well, if you're going to say that you want three single instances of the same object, how are you going to differentiate them with names? That's how it works in here. Names are supported on options, snapshots, and monitor. What does that mean? Let's go back to the code, right? So now let's go back to the code in here. Just bear with me one more minute. ESP.NET. We're bringing those, well, now we're coming and exploring how we can do that with the options pattern, right? So as you can see here, my program CS, I have, okay, configure, grab, get the section, right? We have checked this one previously. Grab this section and bind to a markdown converter, which is this guy here, right? And what does it have? So it has multiple file options. Okay, you have three objects of the same type. And the file options, well, they are here, right? So we kind of have that mapping of configuration to an object. And here we have like a transientation of export service, right? This is transient. So for every single like new request, you're going to have like another instance being created. Uh, it's interesting to show in here. I think that's the one. Yeah, application settings. So we have those settings in here. As you can see, we have another for app settings development. Nothing else, nothing special about that, but everything is coming from here. Just interesting to see that we have a development sort of a configuration for development environments, right? But we're not leveraging that. I'm gonna launch this one. Let me go 11. Uh, this one, okay. .NET Run. Let me launch that, and we're gonna see like some interesting behavior in here because that explains our table, what we have explored, right? Singleton or well, scoped requests, or even like we're gonna use a snapshot or monitor. On this application here, we have that created, and we're going to have like links basically, and then we can see every single way of how those variables, those configuration settings are loaded. Hopefully this one gets loaded soon. Let's see. Okay, we should get support number soon. If that doesn't get loaded as quick as I'm imagining, I'm gonna bring the other projects just in the meantime. Oh, it loaded. Wow, but it's really sluggish. Hey, anyways, let's go to here. Okay, I'm gonna bring that. That's the application here. Should launch in here. All right, we have providers, configuration, options, snapshots, and monitor. On .NET, on ESP.NET, what sort of providers do we have? By default, I will have this loaded. Right, so everything it's kind of stacked for you already. So we're not doing much. We're just saying load this. That's it. What I have like I options. Well, we have like here, like true. Let's say, let's pick this one. Uh, Snapshots. Everything here is going to be true. I'm gonna change like this particular one true, and even like with this service, right? Service launch. Well, it's all true in loading the application, right? But let me come back here. I change to false. Nothing changed in here. I option singleton is not gonna change. Right? It didn't change. I options snapshot. It changed. So now it's false. Right? This is the behavior. Right? So those interface. This should be false as well, and it is. Right? So well, you're gonna see that. What about the injected service? Wow, that's true. So it means that we have a singleton. But if we look in here, I have a transient, right? So it should have changed. Let's look at like the export service. What do we have in here? Whoa, we have I options. So what happens that we have the export service is being initialized per request, but the I options is singleton, and that's what we're displaying. So that's why it shows that's still true, right? So it hasn't changed. So that's the behavior in here that we have, right? So that's like pretty cool, like for us to consider when we're dealing with, okay, I want to launch those configuration settings leveraging the I options. It might talk about, okay, singleton. Do I need a singleton or not? So considerations in here, like important ones. What about like the named, right? So that's what I mentioned, like as part of the table. I had it, what I have in here, file options, file options, file options. But I'm saying the name, doc, HTML, PDF, right? That's going to be built. And if I am to launch this, what's going to happen is that this one only is going to work and named for snapshots in the monitor, but not for I options, right? That's an interesting one because if you're going that way, you need to consider that I options is not an option for you in here, right? Because you're not going to have a way of launching that uh, because only snapshots and monitor like support that. Let me just launch this. I know that we're just taking like a little bit of time, but everything here, if you learn like the details. Well, I think like we're gonna be well covered for any future applications. Let's see here, options. What I'm expecting here, well, it's nothing really. I can show like the details of the implementation, but that's not possible. We cannot like get options out of that, but I can get the different ones for the different sections, right? And let's look like the codes in here because then it explains the whys. So if we look like the pages, right? The one for the I options is this one. Well, the I options, I have only the, so you can see here like I options, right? I have like only the option of dot value. I cannot do that. I need to specify to get a doc, to get the HTML, because I specify that my object is named, right? And when I do that, then perfect. Things are gonna work. So that's an important consideration. You can see here, right? So this is leveraging I options snapshot. Pretty cool. I think like it's important to know. And if you have, when you're gonna use that, right? So if you have configuration files that change when your application is running, it makes sense to have, and you want like to bring those up-to-date settings, configuration, makes sense to use that approach, right? So we have like another one. Let's jump like 13 here. App config. All right, how does it work? So you're gonna see here that, okay, that's a web app, but well, the whole stack thing around those configuration providers, I have this. I'm adding Azure app configuration, right? That reads a config connection string and then column app config. Where is that? If I look in here, app config, there's nothing there. Wow, I can see I have user secrets in here. Uh-huh. So if I am to look at that, oops, CD, go back, CD 13, right? And if I am to put CD user secrets list, let's just like wait for this to come. But you're gonna see that I have a secret in here that maps to my connection string. This one is going to be deleted later on, but for the sake, you could see that the secret was there, right? And, but when I look in here, I have like this configure refresh. I'm going to change refresh all when I change that. Okay, how does it work? Let me run that. We're leveraging an Azure service in here that's called app config, app configuration. Let's see when that loads, but that's an Azure service, right, on the clouds. This is great for feature flags. Right? You're dealing in an engineering team with feature flags, right? So a product team is just like constantly pushing changes, right? But how you're going to control that? Your code business says it's okay to enable. That's growing here. How it works? Let just wait for this to launch. The application here is running now, right? 5043. Let me bring to this one. 5043. This one has launched. Just take like a little bit of time. But the application here, you're going to see, okay, data from Azure app configuration. Where, well, so that's coming from the service in here, app configuration, right? That's an Azure service. And I can control, let's say, variables, parameters, all in here. And you can see I have like, okay, this nested, oh, it's just a mapping, column, test app column, settings column, background color. I could just come in here and change, like, okay, What do I have in here? Saying the background color is white. I'm changing to green. Okay. But like on my code, there was something saying that Sentinel. As soon as that changes, everything changes. Doesn't matter what I change here. No, doesn't matter. But providing that it changes, I can come in here and refresh. Oh, so it came as green, right? So I could say I could have like my application running, and later on, like the business could come to me and say, now we want to have the feature enabled. You could go like to a service like that and enable, right? So that allows you to have really great control, and it's as simple as that. The only thing I needed was the access key that comes with the configuration, the connection string, and then I can basically define my settings as if I had in my local configuration file, right? So you can see here like test app settings Sentinel, perfect. And I'm binding here like get the section test app settings. I don't have anything local. Everything is on that service. That's pretty cool. It's a great use case of the service, right? Or if you have like a global services that need to be available there, great, you can leverage that, right? Another one, keeper files. Okay, keeper files. So you can see we have some files in here, like all right, and you have like underscore underscore. So this is how we can nest dependencies. Logging and nested to key file. This is the same as the column, right? But what we have in here, well, it says environment keyway, a grading is one tag, logging, some values, secret key. Well, that seems interesting. So you could have that an application, maybe a legacy application or something that, well, you're dealing with files. Maybe another application is going to output a file, and then you could leverage that, right? So if we look at what we have in here, right? So you can see this is a console, and that's building up for like, okay, JSON file. We have keeper file. That's really interesting, and it's reading the directory that we have in there, right? And as you can see, like it printed those values, and also like this debug view, which kind of prints all those file contents, right? So if you look, environment shows QA. What else? Keeper file greeting shows the contents. The file logging underscore underscore key file. Wow, that's pretty cool. You have that option, right? It's available for you. What else? Key vaults. Key vaults. I'm gonna show like the other demo, but wow, that's really simple. Like you just inject this key vault in here. Well, with a default Azure credential, anything should work. But is this the way how you deal in production? No. This is just like an example. I'm not gonna run this, but as you can see, you're gonna have additional packages, right? This one and this one. I'm gonna show another example, right? So validations. We can validate configuration files. How cool is that? You can, for example, say, okay, I want to load my webhook settings, and with that, I want to validate with data notations. All right, what data notations? Oh, I have required. It needs to be a URL, a required field, required, or maybe in a range. All right, retry times. That's interesting. What I have in here? Well, I have some settings. In retry times, that one was saying that needs to be between 0 to 3. What if I put 5? Uh, Let me jump like this one, 16.NET run. All right. So my configuration settings in there, like I had a notation, data notation saying that it should be between 0 to 3, but I put retry times 5. Well, I'm a new dev on the team, right? I know what I'm doing. Oops. And then like what you get, this is to prevent for like any mistakes, right? So you don't want like anyone mucking around or messing it up with your settings, right? Like it needs to be controlled, tightly controlled, right? So you have a way of doing that. You can add like additional. I had like data annotations. I can have additional validation. I'm saying here like if the webhook URL is lower than 20 characters, well, this is too short. If it starts with uh, what's that? Well, it says in here that the webhook settings URL needs to start with HTTPS. All right. And you can see these I options. This is, okay, I'm just putting things, but one of the things that we have I validate options. That's pretty cool. Now, if I am to run this just as before, now we should just run. I shouldn't be presented with an exception. And that helps. That helps a lot, right? Especially if like new, well, teams that change all the time and people coming and going, and then you want to have better control. Also, now it compiled, right? So that's a way of doing that. What if, for example, someone always puts, uh, regardless of what people put in there in configuration files, right? Oh, this is HTTP, but you want to enforce that, well, use this post configuration, right? So regardless of what people put in there, if it's not HTTPS, replace with HTTPS. That's it. That's a way of you like rather than exploding or bring that sort of error, you just okay smooth. It just works, right? So people are not going to make mistakes and be presented with those error messages. That's how you can do like if post configuration, right? Let me jump to another. I know that we're extending a little bit. Well, uh, you're gonna get like great content from here. That's not covered in any of the presentations I ever seen. So just going to the other slide in here, working with secrets, right? So that's the real deal in here. How we're gonna do it? Okay, we're gonna leverage .NET user secrets during developments, right? During developments only. It, why do I need a vault? Uh, because we need to have a JSON secrets file that's going to be embedded onto apps, right? So what happens is that when we are dealing with engineering teams, right? We're, well, any teams really, like you don't want to save secrets on configuration files at all, right? So those shouldn't be there. They don't belong there, shouldn't be there. When I say any key vault, any vault, you basically are going to have secrets stored somewhere. It could be like a JSON file. It could be a string that you're going to grab that and paste onto a JSON file, for example. Because the idea is for us to be able to load this JSON file during development, right? So we don't have secrets saved in configuration files. They are at the vault. So we get access to that with our manager and we get to develop, right? And when we get to production, when we're releasing things, where we're gonna put like those secrets, keyvault, right? And then we have like a direct bind onto our apps. Let me show how it works, right? Uh, Let me come back to that. Now we're gonna go to Visual Studio, okay? So I have like those two projects. One is a web API, the other one is a function. If I look like this web API in here, well, let's see like what's available on the program CS, right? Let me just see here if the look is okay. Oh, not this screen, should be the other one. Okay, let me bring a little bit bigger in here. Should be okay-ish. I think this one is fine. Yeah. Okay. Um, can I change my position here? Probably not. Let me put like full screen so you guys can see here things. Uh, okay. I have a program. So that's my web API. But you can see that I'm loading secret settings. Nothing special about that, right? But just has a SQL connection string, blob connection string, a random API key. Things, those are secrets, right? I don't want those to be anywhere on my configuration files. So I don't want them to be here. If possible, I don't even want them to be here at all, right? Uh, so things like that. So they shouldn't be here, like anything that's explicit. And even like on your DevOps, you shouldn't be doing or gluing this on your DevOps, right? Let's say in development phase, you have that. And then during DevOps, you're gluing the values or replacing those in here. You shouldn't. This shouldn't be done. I've seen this happening many places, but it shouldn't be that, right? So there's a better way of doing this. So what happens, right? So we're just loading a secret settings from what's coming here. But I'm saying, okay, if it's not development, well, if it's not development, so it means that it's a production, it's available anywhere else. Then I'm launching a keyvault, and then it makes sense. I'm binding, have a configuration provider here for keyvault. What about the rest in here? I don't have, well, that's ESP.NET, right? It's a web API. I have the out of the box in here for me. And well, so where are those secrets? Well, those secrets are on my user secrets ID. So I have that in here, right? So if I come in here, this is the project, right? .NET user secrets list. I haven't like set up this before coming to the session, right? But you're gonna see, okay, so I have secret settings, SQL connection string, right? So yeah, I have my secrets in here. Those would be the ones I got from the vault, and I have launched in here. Fine, right? So I could just come and launch my application here running in the local instance. This is not going to be launched at all, but like it's just a way for us to work locally. But when it goes to production, right, then I have this in here. Let me bring like, so you can see I have a web API in here. If I am to open that, right, and I think I had like a shortcut for this one. Let me just bring the secrets on another tab, right? What you can see here is that, well, this is my key vault secret for SEO connection string, blob connection string, right? My application itself, what it does, it doesn't do much. I'm just grabbing, okay, just retrieve the secrets. That's it, right? So, and when I look, so those are the secrets I have there. I have configured key vault. When I look at providers, well, everything that was in there, like a launch by default is in there, but you can see that I have this last provider here, Azure Key Vault Configuration Provider. Everything else was just out of the box, right? So, well, that's cool because now what happens is that I can work in my local leveraging what I have, but when it comes down to production, I can leverage key vaults. How do I do that with key vaults? Well, basically need to have this managed identity. This is how I say, okay, this registration. I need to have this ID. And then when it goes to my key vault, if I open here, this authorizes me to have access to the secrets. All right, so it's a little bit of just a configuration. Well, it's just like around the access control in here that says, okay, in here I have some role assignments. And for my application, those ones in here, I have like three. They have access as a user, so they can read secrets. What sort of secrets? Those are here, right? So nothing complicated. It's just like, okay, the secrets are there, and I have my key vault secrets. That's how you do it, like in engineer teams and in solutions that are going to be productionized, right? I have in here also, this is a web API, but I have like the example of an Azure function. The Azure function is interesting because the functions, if I show what I have in here that's different, or not different, that's exactly the same. I'm just showing, okay, those are the secrets, bring it on, right? It's basically on the hook. Uh, Let me see if you guys are seeing, okay, yep. If you look in here, I have like the JSON file, settings, when is development. When I am on my local, I'm launching settings JSON. User secrets, those are not launched by default. So that's why I need to explicitly say, right, that they are going to be combined, right, in my local. I'm going to leverage user secrets. So if I was to go in here and say that, okay, Azure function, and do exactly the same as before, and here, secrets list, I would have like my user secrets in there, similar as the ones above, but this one like for functions, right? I just specify like that, and I would be working on those, right? When I go to production, I have two options. Uh, Recommended, right? I need to load a JSON file, right? This is the settings JSON, but the secret shouldn't be here, right, at all. I have some configuration files required for functions to work, but this one should not be here. It should be coming from secrets. So I have those secrets, right? But when I'm running locally, I have those. But when I'm in production, I should be doing this environment variables. I should be leveraging that in functions. I can do this one also, right, where it's commented out, like a JSON file in Azure Key Vault. I can do that, uh, but on Azure Functions with environment variables, they just work. Let me jump in there. Right? Previously, I just deployed those in here. Let me just launch them so you can see it. So I have this one and I have this environment one. They're going to be launched, right? And then you can see what happens. I'm just going to cover that and then we're pretty much done. So you've been sticking around just like to see this, right? And that's how like a commercial application should be done. And as I showed, like with the web API, with functions, they have like a special feature where we can just simply hook to key vaults out of the box. And that's like it's coming here with the environment variable. Okay, let's just like wait for things to launch in here. But we're gonna see we have those two functions in here. Let's go like providers, right? I'm gonna do the same with this one when it launches. Let's see if this one is launching. Let's see if that's there. When it does get providers, okay. So this one, I should be able to run it soon. Let's see. This one, I'm gonna click in here. All right. I just want to show, okay, so I have like those different configuration providers. I can go like here and test and run. and I can just run it. Okay, I'm going to run this. Wait a moment, right? So, and then we can compare. So what's the difference? I have this one doesn't have env. This one has env. This one we have, well, by default, environment variables and command line. I have this one, I have JSON environment variables. We can see like duplicated. Should I do that? Well, I need to do it because the last wings, right? Remember that. If I had like only settings JSON, I would have like the cannot be cannot be there, right? Those settings. But now I'm kind of the last one wins. So that's why I need to have the environment variables as the latest. What about in here? Well, I have the JSON and the keyvault. Cool, right? So I could just simply go back and run the get secrets, and I should be able to see those secrets. Let me go back and get secrets and code test this one and code test that. All right. Well, in the end, right, both are going to be launching the same sort of values. They're going to be displaying here, right? Same behavior, same for the other one, but the main difference is going to be on the environment variables, right? One of the things in here, like I didn't put it on the blob connection string. Yeah, it shouldn't be there. That was something I modified when I was publishing. But anyways, it should be like, okay, so you can see I can mix things in here, right? So if I want to bring from JSON on keyvault. Anyways, the thing that I want to show is this in here, is that the configuration is going to show me a green tick, okay? Can you see here, right? Well, this is the green tick. It automatically binds to the keyvault. Kind of here like the beginning of the script, but you can see here like a underscore, right? So this was the hierarchy, how we were dealing with columns, right? But when it goes to functions in here, we should be dealing with underscore, because this is a Linux environment. I'm leveraging Linux. Something important to consider. If you're doing Windows, you can do underscore and also column. I'm using Linux in here, so it should be underscore. Well, I think like with that, right, we have covered everything, really. That's I'm gonna be sharing just now uh, on the chat the link to the source codes, because then you're gonna be able to check that yourself, right? Let me just go and share. Uh, just bear with me. Uh, Anyways, I think I kind of closed that. GitHub./ Marcel Medina. And then you can go in here and there'll be repositories, and you're going to be able to see configuration file secrets. Okay. The, this is in there. I need to push it. Right now it's empty. Uh, I need to push like those changes. The other one you're going to see about the demo, this is a fork, right? This is a fork for the .NET configuration that it has all the details I have shown. If you could please just like start those repositories, I really appreciate. It's just like something that's well, uh, just nice if you can do it. I really appreciate. We're getting like to the end of the session, and hopefully you got like to learn a lot on that. You can always review. Those sessions are recorded and available on YouTube as part of the streaming. Really appreciate you to stay like here up to the end. There are no questions. I think like we have gone through thoroughly all of the examples. I hope you have learned lots. Feel free to connect. Those details I have shared at the beginning of the session. And if you are also keen to come and chat with me later on for a session that you want to present, please just come forward, right? Definitely keen to hear like from you. And we should have a break, and we should catch up next month after like the holidays. So wish you like a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. See, come back in January 2024. Yeah, and see you next. And have a great evening. Cheers.